In this edition of 70s Hidden Gems, we dangerously hover over some gory pulp fiction, we drift down the sea of heartbreak, and we come together for a union of humanity at the end. A showcase of 5 diverse 70s hidden gems that you're going to love to rediscover, including commentary from artists up next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock. I'm always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. Make sure that you subscribe below, especially if you love the music of the golden era, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And don't miss exclusive interviews and stories directly from the artists who created them right here. Also, look us up on Patreon to be a part of curating this grand history and for more content. Now it's time for a second helping, a second volume of 70s Hidden Gems. I really think you're going to dig this one. We kick off this installment of 70s Hidden Gems with the spotlight turned on one of the most morbid songs ever to break the top 40 on the Billboard Hot 100. D.O.A. by the Fort Worth, Texas band Bloodrock. D.O.A., man, it's just a disturbing story about the bloody aftermath of a fatal plane crash with a chilling narration from a dying man laying on the ground describing what he sees and what he feels in the moments before his imminent demise. Life is flowing out of my body. Pain is flowing out with my blood. The sheets are red and moist where I'm lying. God in heaven, teach me how to die.
God in heaven, teach me how to die.
Wow. Bloodrock's drummer turned lead vocalist Jim Rutledge does the honors as the narrator of this creepy tale. His delivery is at its most petrifying, and then he illustrates the following recounting. Then I look straight at the attendant. His face is pale as it can be. He bends and whispers something softly. He says there's no chance for me. This is absolutely one of the most horrifying pieces of pop music out there. It just brings fear to the hearts of any listener.
He says there's no chance for me.
Jim Rutledge, he does the honors over a chilling musical soundtrack that is created by an organ and a guitar playing a tritone interval, also referred to as the Devil's Interval.
Something warm is
Actually, centuries ago, religious leaders deemed the sequence too jarring to even be played in churches. The recreation of the tritone interval gives D.O.A. an ominous aura that is intensified by the sound of screeching ambulance sirens. D.O.A. began getting radio play in Dallas, and the listener reaction was instantaneous. Like a gruesome horror flick, the song scared the hell out of people, but they couldn't get enough of the auditory thrill ride.
to move my arm and there's no feeling.
One play of D.O.A. over the airwaves, it would light up the phone lines like a Christmas tree, as they say, at the radio stations, with listeners requesting to hear the song again and again, or just inquire in bewilderment. What was that? Despite the listener impact, the track generated D.O.A. was widely banned, actually, from airplay by many AM Top 40 stations. Programmers were afraid of the gruesome theme of the song, but they were also concerned about the sirens in the recording. They contended that the sounds would confuse drivers and therefore was a menace to motorists. D.O.A. was also believed to be a drug song. Many translated the chorus, I remember we were flying along, it hit something in the air, as a reference to driving while under the influence of LSD. Bloodrock guitarist Lee Pickens, who came up with the idea for D.O.A., he set the record straight, though, when he revealed that the song was inspired after he witnessed an actual plane crash as a teenager at a small commercial airport. When Pickens was 17, he wanted to fly planes, and on one fateful day, he and a friend had just exited a plane and then watched the same aircraft take off. The plane flew about 200 feet in the air and then suddenly fell, crashing and rolling in a fiery heap. That's where Pickens conceived the chorus for D.O.A. I remember we were flying along and hit something in the air. Unsurprisingly, sales for the D.O.A. 45 were huge, along with Bloodrock's second album where the full 8-minute and 30-second version was originally presented. Gotta hear that one. The radio edit, cut to around 4.5 minutes, fought through the airplay boycott. It managed to hit number 36 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1971. The song also includes a mind-bending and ultra guitar solo. Bloodrock never matched the success of D.O.A. They broke up in 1975 after releasing 6 studio albums. It's definitely a song worth dissecting again. If you haven't heard it, you're really in for an experience. We're going to include it in the playlist below so you can. Tell us your thoughts in the comments.
And there's something in the air.
We travel down a completely different path for our number 4 70s hidden gem, drifting on the sea of heartbreak with Hold On by British singer-songwriter Ian Gomm. I've been drifting on the sea of heartbreak, trying to get myself ashore for so long, listening to the strangest stories, wondering where it all went wrong. Ian Gomm's Hold On is an inspiring composition about self-reflection and perseverance.
Hold on to what you got.
It would be Gomm's one and only hit, but by the time Hold On was dropped as a single in 1979, Gomm established himself as a highly esteemed musician among his peers. In 1971, Gomm was named Best Rhythm Guitarist by the popular magazine New Music Express. Ian received the accolade while he was with Brinsley Schwarz, a London pub scene outfit, played together from 1970 through 1974. Brinsley Schwarz also featured another cool cat with bassist frontman Nick Lowe. During their time as bandmates in Brinsley Schwarz, Ian and Nick co-wrote the song Cruel to Be Kind. Everybody knows that one. Of course, became a big international hit for Nick Lowe in 1978. We'll definitely cover it in the future. Great song.
You gotta be cruel to be kind in the right measure.
Ian Gomm projected an outstanding vocal for Hold On, though. It has a pensive, affecting spirit, and it takes you right back to the carefree, peaceful, easy feeling of the 70s. The recording of the single features a revered level of musicianship with coveted session players like Barry DeSouza on drums, Herbie Flowers on bass, and Raphael Ravenscroft on saxophone, the man who gave us that riveting sax solo on Jerry Rafferty's haunting Baker Street, among many other magnum performances. The world-class musicianship is why Hold On has such a resonant quality to it all these years later. Hold On was released as a single off Ian's first solo record, Summer Holiday, later changed to the album title Gomm with the Wind. While Hold On was building steam at radio, Ian Gomm was busy touring as the opening act for Dire Straits on the Sultans of Swing tour, actually. The track peaked at number 18 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the fall of 1979. Since the dawn of the 80s, Gomm has been actively writing, producing, and recording music, the last of which he did for an album project that was called Only Time Will Tell. That was in 2010. It's worth a listen. At number 3, we have the absolutely elegant 70s classic, I Will Be in Love with You from Livingston Taylor. Livingston, of course, younger brother of Rock and Roll Hall of Famer James Taylor. Livingston wrote just a great one here, feel-good song. I had the pleasure of sitting down with him while he was performing in Park City, Utah, and we talked about I Will Be in Love with You in detail. Now, the song hit number 30 on the Hot 100 in 1978, hit number 15 on the AC charts as well. Again, just one of those great feel-good songs of the time. As we go into this interview with Livingston, I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, glasses that I always wear. Today, I'm actually sporting my black horn rim pair. It's got Professor of Rock on the side here. That's what I love about Zenni, is that you can customize your eyewear with a prescription lens, non-prescription lens. You can do sunglasses. You know, if you just want the cool look, certain color to bring some style to your life, go check it out at Zenni.com. You'll love it. Here's Livingston with the interview.
I will be in love with you.
Three-Way Mirror comes out. That had your first top 40 hit, I Will Be in Love with You. Love that song. Remember hearing it as a child, and went to number 30 on the Hot 100, number 15 on the AC
You've done
chart.
your research, my young friend.
But a beautiful arrangement. I want to talk about the many musical instruments in that song. I heard the violin intro. Cello, chimes, a harp.
Yeah.
French horn, the electric piano. And then, was that a flugelhorn at the end of that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is that Jerry Hay?
I don't know who was playing it.
I think it might have been Jerry Hay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because the record was produced by a man named Nick DeCaro. At that point in my career, it was 1977. I'd been dropped by Atlantic Records. But I got together with a guy named Charlie Koppelman. Is that a name that's familiar to you? And Charlie Koppelman is a real song fella. A big, larger-than-life fella. And with a thick New York accent and a sort of an FDR demeanor about him with a big cigar all the time. Look, we need hit records. We need to make hit. You want to make a hit? Here's what you need. You need a tape recorder and a great song. And you know, that type of guy. And he loved songs. A true gatekeeper in the very core sense of the word. And he advocated aggressively for me, and he took me to CBS Records. And I had lots of these sort of poppy songs, and he was enthusiastic about them, and we went to work. We made 2 records together. Neither of them were particularly successful, meaning they weren't monster hit records, but I learned a great deal, and it really put me back on my feet in an infrastructure where my career was really working again. And it's, stayed there ever since.
I want to ask you about the second verse. I love the lyric on that where it says, I don't know how lonesome I have been. I live that way day to day.
I have been, I live that way day to day.
I don't know how to I want to become gentle as spring starts. I will be in love with you. I'll be in love with you. Yes, you sit there and you write, and something will come to mind, and if it amuses, then I just keep it. If I think it's good, I just keep it. I don't have any sense of where it's coming from, and if I get stuck, I'll wait, and sometimes I have to wait 5 minutes or 5 days or 5 months or 5 years. Things show up when they need to show up. I've written well writing under assignment, meaning the basic gun to your head writing. And I've written well in that circumstance, and I've written poorly in that circumstance. Conversely, I've written well just waiting for the muse to fly through the window. And I've written poorly waiting for the muse. You just stay at it. And again, the same 1 to 40 ratio applies. You have 39 ideas that don't really go anyplace, and the 40th is a spark that, to paraphrase Abraham Lincoln, it's a spark that finds a dry field.
That's right.
Yeah. The rule of rules is, can you stay at it?
I'll be in love with you.
At number 2, we have a real blast from the past. The band Lindisfarne was far from being a household name. It's even harder to spell the name of the band than it is to pronounce it. Lindisfarne, the Holy Island, is just off the northeast coast of England, full of Celtic and Viking history. Now, the group Lindisfarne formed in 1968 in Newcastle, England. From 1970 to 2003, Lindisfarne released 13 studio albums, each with an interesting blend of folk and progressive rock. Now, from their 6th LP, Lindisfarne gave us an endearing hidden gem called Run for Home.
Run for home, run as fast as I can.
Run for Home, it's just a great song. It was written by keyboardist guitarist Alan Hull, who also performed the main vocal. After the whimsical intro, Hull sings in a contemplative style about traveling the land with a guitar in his hand.
Travel the land with a guitar in.
How he's seen all the frowns on the faces of the clowns, and he's seen all the girls with their pretty frocks and curls, but none of that means much to him. I mean, he longs for the beautiful sanctity of his home. The 4-vocal chorus makes Run for Home just an infectious liberation that you sing over and over again with unyielding exultation. The passion of the song's chorus is magnetically bolstered by a dramatic string arrangement that was created by music technician Bruce Baxter. Run for Home peaked at number 33 on the Billboard Hot 100, but it steadily moved up the UK singles chart over a long 4-month journey, finished at number 10. Sadly, Alan Hull suddenly collapsed from a coronary blood clot and passed away in 1995. Run for Home was praised by many as being Alan Hull's best composition. A memorable song, again, it just ignites the soul. I love the part when it goes a cappella for a moment. Just amazing.
Running man, running for home.
1978 was a great year for hidden gems. And at the number 1 spot of this edition of 70s Hidden Gems is the original version of Every Kind of People, the breakthrough single in the US for the late great Robert Palmer.
Every kind of people.
It's from his 4th solo album, Double Fun. Whenever anyone mentions the truly talented Robert Palmer, the first thing we go to is Addicted to Love. The explosive, surefire, catchy tune from '86 with its equally iconic music video. But Robert Palmer was a lot more than that song. He's truly one of the most underappreciated figures of the rock era, in my opinion. Gosh, we lost a great artist when he passed. The caliber of this 70s gem starts with how beautifully written the song is by veteran rocker Andy Fraser, who was the bassist for the band Free, and he penned their signature classic All Right Now.
All right now, baby, it's all.
Fraser's song is just an important, thought-provoking composition with a message that resonates resoundingly in these modern times right now, especially in verse 3. And he says, "There is no profit in deceit. Honest men know that revenge does not taste sweet."
Honest men know that revenge does not taste sweet.
This song, it's overshadowed by the pinnacle success in the 80s that Robert Palmer had with hits like Simply Irresistible.
Simply irresistible.
And Didn't Mean to Turn You On. Every Kind of People is creme de la creme Robert Palmer. It's the song that I would play to demonstrate his distinctive vocal power.
He wants the sunshine in his name.
He truly puts his whole heart and soul and full lung capacity into his singing performance on Every Kind of People, and I love the original the most. Palmer had a rich soulfulness that injected his music with tenacity and passion. His vocal style blends magically with the swaying rhythmic arrangement on Every Kind of People.
To make the world go round.
The track mingles a marvelous combination of Caribbean steel drums, performed by Robert Greenridge, with a bright keyboard riff played by James Allen Smith, a trumpet solo by the great Randy Brecker, and a funky bass groove from Bob Babbitt. All incredible musicians. The result is just sexy, tropical R&B world music arrangement, that Robert Palmer transposed from Andy Fraser's bass riff, where the tune was built from. Robert Palmer has so many other classics that deserve rediscovery. I always loved his version of Can We Still Be Friends? The heart-wrenching composition from, of course, Todd Rundgren. I love both versions for different reasons. Palmer's reading is very cool.
Can we still be friends?
Every Kind of People was Robert Palmer's first hit in America, ascending to number 16 on the Billboard Hot 100. Andy Fraser died of a sudden heart attack at just 62 years old. Of course, Robert Palmer also left this earth far too young, as I said. He too died of a heart attack. He was only 54. We will definitely bestow further praise on the enormous talent of Robert Palmer in future video features here on Professor Rock. But here's a recent memory that was shared by Jerry Harrison of Talking Heads about Robert Palmer. I think you're going to dig. It's a funny story.
We became really good friends with Robert Palmer. I've told this story before, but it's so great, I want to tell it again. And so when we were making more songs about buildings and food, I was sitting in New York, and we were supposed to start, say, on Friday of a week. And it could have been a Monday, but whatever it was, I knew that we had this house that we had rented, and we had rented it for the month or something. So it's, wait a moment, we have a house in the Bahamas, and it's freezing here. So I just said, I'm going to go ahead of time. And I hopped on a plane, flew to the Bahamas, and I got there at 8 p.m. and it's dark. Go to a taxi driver, go, well, could you take me to Compass Point? Because I figured there'd be someone at like the studios in New York. They stayed open all night. And he goes, what's Compass Point? And I go, it's a recording studio. And he goes, oh, yes, I think I've heard. I think that's Gambia Village. Okay, get in, but I have to drop this other person off. And it was on the exact opposite end of Nassau. So we went and dropped him off, and we get to a place, and there's a boat ramp, and you can see the waves from the ocean crashing. And a single street lamp, chickens clucking. He goes, here it is, get out. And I get out, and I go like, all the buildings are dark. And it's basically this kind of very basic Bahamian village with a few sort of cement block stucco buildings. And a door opens, and Robert Palmer says, you must be in dire need of a cocktail. Why don't you come in? And he was such a gracious host. It was one of the most like, oh my God, thank God. I ended up sleeping at the studio that night and then got to the house the next day. But so he was hanging around, and I think he did some percussion parts some of which remain in life, which I think that's some we used and some we replaced when we got back to New York with some more professional percussion players. But, he had been exploring New Orleans music with, what's this, Chasing Sally in the Alley or something. I can't remember exactly what that he worked with Leo Nachicelli on and things like that. So he had the same excitement about exploring music of other cultures and then bringing it into his songwriting process.
Who takes every kind of people?
So there you have it. 5 wonderful gems from the golden era known as the easygoing 70s. Leave us a comment about each one of these songs if you would. What do you remember about the first time you heard them? What are your thoughts on them? Tell you what, if you like our content, we would love to have you be a part of this community. Subscribe below right now. Make sure that you listen to the songs in the playlist below. Also click on our Patreon link in the description to see our new show about the stories of the biggest songs of the 50s and 60s. A little bit of serendipity there that you'll see in the first episode. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there. We'll talk to you soon.